Angel po, the first reporter about the annotation of Morga Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas. Sa discussion po natin ngayon, malalaman natin ang kahalagahan sa kasaysayan ng ating bansa ng librong Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas ni Antonio de Morga, na ang salin sa Ingles ay Events in the Philippine Islands. Ano nga ba ang nilalaman nito at naging parte ito ng kasaysayan ng ating bansa? At maging si Dr. Rizal ay nagka-interes na basahin ito. So, Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas is one of the most important work in the early history of the Spanish colonization of the Philippines. It is a documentation of events during the Spanish colonial period of the Philippines, as observed by the author himself. So ang librong ito ay naglalaman ng 8 kabanata patungkol sa pangyayari noon sa ating bansa, including Philippine customs, traditions, manners, and religion during the Spanish conquest. So the book was published by Antonio de Morga in year 1609 in Mexico and was reprinted and annotated by Dr. Jose Rizal. So, Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas is the first historical book published about the history of the Philippines, specifically the transition period of the Philippines from the original culture of the Filipinos, its original society, the events of the coming of the Spaniards, in the changes in the first part of colonization of Spanish in the Philippines. So, ang mga naging pangunahing topic ni Morga sa kanyang libro ay ang mga mahalagang pangyari na nakita niya ng panahong iyon. So, it became important in the history, especially in the Philippines, dahil ito ang kauna-unahang librong nagpakilala sa bansang Pilipinas formally sa buong mundo. This book was also the first historical book that was written by the layman. Madalas kasi makasagaran, nung early Spanish colonization, mga pare, mga Jesuit priests were the author majority of the documents nung panahon iyon. So, sino nga ba si Antonio de Morga? So, bukod sa siya ang author ng libro, he's a historian, Spanish conquistador, soldier, lawyer, and a high-ranking colonial official for 43 years in the Philippines, New Spain, and Peru, where he was president of the Real Audiencia for 20 years. So, a professional background ni Antonio de Morga, hindi rin basta-basta. So, noong taong 1953, ipinadala si Morga sa Manila bilang lieutenant governor. Pumapangalawa siya sa may pinakamataas na posisyon. So, dahil na-expose siya sa Manila, nagka-interest siya sa mga pangyayari sa Pilipinas at sa mga mamamayan nito. At dito nga nagsimula ang kanyang pagsusulat ng Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, na nakabase unang-una sa kanyang mga obserbasyon sa pamamalagi niya dito sa Pilipinas. Pangalawa, sa kanyang mga karanasan bilang Spanish conquistador at opisyal ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas. At ang pangatlo naman, he used his professional background to access and to look for other documents and official reports that will give support and validity of his book. So, like the document, the eyewitnesses of the events such as the survivors of Miguel Lopez de Legazpi's Philippine expedition. So, to sum it all, the informations he gathered are from the primary sources na naging dahilan para maging valid at valuable ang kanyang libro at maging parte ng history sa mahabang panahon. So sa librong Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, makikita natin na sa nilalaman nito ang naging attachment ni Morga sa ating bansa at sa mga mamamayan ng Pilipinas.
Hi, I am Ignacio J.M. Cristovinis, and I'm going to report Morga's purpose for writing Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas. So first, Morga's purpose for writing Sucesos is the various fortunes that they have from time to time in the great kingdoms and among the pagan peoples surrounding the island, which is the Philippines. So way back 1951, Morga's was um, um, Morga's was itinalaga siya dito sa Filipinas bilang lieutenant governor when Spaniards or pre-colonial period pa. And that time, nagkaroon siya ng interest kung paano mamuhay yung Philippines and kung ano yung mga cultures and traditions nilang ginagawa. So that he cope up with this book, Sucesos de las Filipinas. So that time, of course, 'di ba? Siya ay isang historian. So lahat ng lahat ng nakikita niya or observation niya is dina-document niya, which is sabi niya din dito sa quote niya, the deeds achieved by our Spaniards, the discovery, conquest, and conversion of the Filipinas Islands. This was the um, purpose kung bakit niya naisulat ang Sucesos de las Filipinas. Diba? During that time, nakita niya kung paano mamuhay yung mga Filipinos and doon nagkaroon siya ng curiosity that nag-observe siya. In-observe niya yung location, yung climate, in-observe niya yung men and women, yung government, that time, lahat na nangyayari sa Philippines. And yun yung purpose ni Morga kung bakit niya naisulat yung book na ito. And next, what leads sa Rizal to Sucesos de las Filipinas? Ano nga ba yung tumulak kayo sa Rizal para magkaroon ng version ng Sucesos de las Filipinas? And first, Rizal spent his entire life staying in London at the British Museum reading book, 'di ba? Alam naman natin yung mga past school ni Jose Rizal, which pumasok siya, 'di ba, sa London. Pumasok siya sa City of London. May isang school siyang pinatukan doon and lagi siyang tambayan ng museum, reading museum, parang malaking library dito sa Philippines. And yun, doon niya nakita yung yan. Having found Morga's book, he laboriously hand-copied that whole 351 pages of the Sucesos and proceed to annotate every chapter of the Sucesos. After he reads Morga's book, which is Sucesos de las Filipinas, nagkaroon agad siya or may eager siya na magkaroon ng sarili ng version or inannotate niya. Diba? Itinama niya kung ano bang tama sa observation ni Morga. And doon sila nagkaroon ng argument between the culture, between the location, between the ano yung pagkakaintindi ni Morga and ni Rizal about Philippines. And sabi din dito, Rizal commits the error of many historians in appraising the events of the past in the light of the present standards. As I said earlier, Rizal, tinignan niyo yung mga possible na tingin niya, hindi naman talaga yun yung description sa Philippines. Marami silang argument, maraming errors na nakita si Rizal na tingin niya hindi naman totoo about the Philippines. And ayan, his attacks on the church were unfair and unjustified because of the abuses of the friar should not be construed to the mean of Catholicism is bad. And dito, nakita niya kung paano nagkaroon ng bias about the religion and the churches about in the Philippines that time. And kaya si Rizal, he eager have to annotate that book para maipakita din sa author, which is si Morga, na may mga bagay din na hindi naman ganun totoo, diba? And that ends of my report. Next reporter na po.
Let's talk about Rizal's annotation of Morga. The annotation of Morga is simply the views and explanation or comments of Dr. Jose Rizal about what Antonio de Morga wrote in his book. Rizal covered many things about the book, from geography, art, weather, and climate, technology, customs and traditions, literature, and so on. The first one is geography. Morga said, Philippines was deserted and uninhabitable. Rizal disagreed. Ptolemy, in his geography, indicated 3 islands, which are Sinade, Gilolo, and Abronia, and their inhabitants. Thus, Philippines was not deserted and was actually habitable. Morga also said it extends up to 12 degrees south latitude. Rizal said it actually is in exactly 25 degrees and 40 minutes latitude north until 12 degrees latitude south. Climate. Morga said winters and summers are opposite of those in Europe. Rainy weather is from June to September, while summer is from October to May. Rizal disagreed. In Manila, December to February, the temperature goes down more than it does during August to September. Thus, with regards to the season, it resembles Spain as all the rest of the northern hemisphere. Plant species. Morga said betel, pickles, and ginger are abundant. Rizal said betel is kasubha in Tagalog. Body tattoo. Morga said, draws pattern first before putting back powder where the blood oozes out. Rizal agreed. It is the same method as the Japanese. Indigenous people. Morga said tributes of whom cannot be safe because of violence. Rizal said they will always choose violence until the government enters because of their inhuman ways as answer to those who do not submit to the friars. Lifestyle and moral principles. Morga said men and women are money-loving and in capital, so when there is a price, they yield. Rizal said, we find it everywhere, in the world, even in the Europe. Also, Morga said, bathing their body in rivers or streams regardless of their age. Rizal said, Indians have hygienic customs, which is the proper way of taking bath. Government. Morga said there are no kings or lords to rule them. Rizal agreed that there were no such kings. Morga was critical of the system of government because there are no rulers for myriad communities, instead one leader for each tribe. Rizal argued that it was better that way because having a leader that tribe needs and want problems that they have is more effective. Food. Morga said they prefer to eat salt fish, which began to decompose and smell. Rizal said it is called bagoong, and all those who have been eaten it and tasted it It knows that it is not or ought to be not rotten. Also, Morga said the ordinary food of the natives is a very small fish, which they call laulau. Rizal said it seems that Morga refers to tawilis or dilis, which is eaten by natives in large quantities. Belief on crocodiles. Morga said the natives set traps on the borders of rivers and streams near their settlements to secure them, from which they fear and venerate. Rizal stated that it is just how other nations have their respect to lions and bears, putting their symbols in their shields and giving them vulnerable epithets. Lion symbolizes royalty, bravery, and courageousness, while the bear symbolizes courage, conquest, and incredible physical strength. Healers, Morga said, brave successors and wizards who deceive the people and communicate to them whatever they wish. They believe in omens and superstitions. They could tell whether the sick person would live or die. Rizal proved through the story of Father Chirino about the case of Armando, who is sick. He often offered his body to see if he will be cured. But if he was cured, what could be said now to all who died, despite all the masses offered to the different virgins? Customs for the dead. Morga said they buried their dead in their own houses, keeping their bodies and bones for a long time in boxes and venerating their skulls. Rizal said, we find it much more natural and pious to venerate the remains of our loved ones than those fanatical martyrs whom we have no dealings and who probably will never remember us. Economy. Morga said cotton is raised through the island, which they sell and trade as threads. Rizal stated they also have cotton and not just rice. Morga also said the natives of the island sell the artifacts to the Japanese. Rizal agreed it is a very interesting history, shaped and valued with a price of 100 offered for one of them. Morga also said natives are always mining for gold, but when the Spaniards came, the mining became lesser and they just treasured what gold jewelry they have and passing it through generations. Rizal stated that Indios, on seeing that wealth, aroused the capacity of the encomenderos and soldiers, abandoned the work in the mines, and the priests. Historians relate that in order to save them from vexations.
There are three main propositions in the Rizal's Morga. First, the Filipinos had a culture that they practiced on their own before the Spaniards' colonization. Filipinos, before the colonization of the Spanish, were already rich in culture and trading to other countries like China, Japan, and others. Next, the people of the Philippines were demoralized, exploited, and ruined by the Spanish colonization, which includes their mistreatment to the natives and such cruel labor for the Filipinos, discriminating them in their own land that became abusive. And the last, the present state of the Philippines was not necessarily superior to its past.
I'm Angela Vicente. Ang i-report ko ay Ferdinand Blumentrit's prologue. Si Ferdinand Blumentritt ay isang Austrian scholar and school teacher na naging matalik na kaibigan ni Rizal. Siya ang naging inspirasyon or nag-udyok kay Rizal para masulat yung Annotation sa Antonio Morga Sucesos de las Islas, Felipinas. Ang prologue ni Ferdinand Blumentritt ay sinulat niya sa wikang Spanish instead sa German na kanyang native language. Sinabi niya na ang gawa ni Rizal ay scholarly and well thought out. Sinabi din niya na ang Morga Sucesos na libro ay isang rare piece. Since di pa nga uso yung Xerox copy machine noon, nag-iisa lang siya sa library. And ang ginawa ni Rizal noon ay sinulat niya ito isa-isa and inannotate niya ito approximately 2 pages per page ng libro ni Morga. And kinriticize niya din yung anotasyon ni Rizal sa dalawang counts. Sinabi niya na masyado daw kininitik ni Rizal yung libro or yung priors. And dapat daw ikip na lang niya ito since pwede niya ito ikapahamak kasi nga galit yung mga Espanyol sa mga may balak or gustong mag-aklas laban sa kanila. And galit din sila sa mga taong naninira or nagko-comment laban din sa kanila. Ano nga ba yung purpose ng pagsulat ni Rizal sa Morga Sucesos? Meron siyang 3 purpose. Yung una ay to awaken the unconsciousness of the Filipinos of the glorious ways of the past. Yung pangalawa, correct what has been distorted about the Philippines due to Spanish conquest. Yung pangatlo, prove that Filipinos are civilized even before the coming of the Spaniards. Kasi nung unang panahon, parang walang pagkakakilanlan yung mga Pilipinos. Parang pakiramdam nila, wala lang sila, parang salingket-ket lang. So, ang gusto ni Rizal, ipaalam sa mga Pilipino na nag-e-exist tayo. And gusto niya din mag-develop yung nationalism natin. Gusto din niya na i-prove na hindi uncivilized or mangmang yung mga Pilipino. Sinasabi niya na civilized daw yung mga Pilipino bago pa lang yung pagsakop ng mga Spanish. Kasi nga, nung una pa lang, maalam na mag-trade yung mga Pilipinos and nakikipag-trade na sila sa mga Chinese noon pa man. And gusto niya din na maging way yung anotasyon para malaman natin ngayon na kasalukuyan kung anong nangyari sa past and ma-apply and matuto tayo sa napagdaanan nila. Yun lamang po.
For the last part of our presentation is the importance of Rizal's annotation to Antonio Morga's Sucesos de las Isla Felipinas. Its importance. The importance of Rizal's annotation to Morga's Sucesos de las Islas Felipinas is that Rizal were able to clear and make a more meaningful views about the Philippines in Morga's annotation. It spreaded of how Filipinos could see themselves in the face of growing nationalism, which eventually contributed to the creation of our country.